Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol b'dvarim.
Fine,
I'm L'chaim, everybody.
fine.
All right. Let's continue with our mimer. So there's two ways the core of our soul gets expressed. One from external influence, one from internal influence. One is a crushing experience that one experiences, that one rises above and beyond. Um, it reveals the core of the soul, reveals the core of the soul in a manner that is um, beyond rationale. Tonight, tomorrow, following day, Yud Gimel Tammuz, the day the previous Rebbe was released from prison. He and many of his Chassidim had done complete Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice above and beyond rationality, beyond logic, and it didn't affect the inner world so much. Because, it's like when you're running on adrenaline. You run on adrenaline, it's beyond any mind and heart that you're running on. To use that as a metaphor, and therefore it doesn't touch the inner world, the powers of the soul. It doesn't touch in a real way. And afterwards, when you don't need the adrenaline anymore, you don't need to rise beyond, above and beyond a very challenging, difficult circumstance. So then you're back to normal. But then there is when you touch the core of your soul, the way it is rooted in the essence of God, then there's no distinction ever. When will that be? Is that the brokenness is not coming because of a compelling circumstance, but the brokenness is coming from within. You're broken because godliness isn't everywhere. And even the godliness that you have is limited, because if it's not everywhere, then it's not, then it's not, then it's a very limited form of godliness. It's being revealed to you in your life. So through this, there's these two different ways of being broken, being crushed, that brings out the core essence of us. So when it comes to the unity of the Jewish people, so this will be expressed also in two different ways. In the Achdus Israel, the unity of the Jewish people. We live in a times of unity of the Jewish people. So is the unity, and this has always been the challenge, is the unity coming because of October 7th? Meaning a crushing experience, right? That crushes us. Or anti-Semitism that is, prevalent And that's crushing. Is that the cause for Jewish unity? Or is it a deeper one that's not compelled by something from the outside, by others, but it's compelled from within the individual? Mm. So, says it that I've been the mimer and adding in the unity of the Jewish people that comes from the core of the soul that is revealed, can be revealed because it's something added to the individual, this unit. In other words, Jews are united. That's in addition to my being. I am, and I'm united with a fellow Jew, which kind of makes sense, right? After all, I am. Therefore, and how will it express itself, this unity? Well, and what brings us what makes us united is the soul. What is the inherent unity that we have is in our soul. So when I make my soul primary in my life, then I can sense and add unity of another Jew in my life. Of course, if I make my body primary in my life, meaning my my bodily needs, right? Whether they're the biological needs that I have, um, the material needs that I have, if I make them primary in my life, then of course I'm not going to be really united with another person, with another Jew. I won't be united with, right? I won't really be united. Doesn't mean we can't come together to do good, but I'm not really united with them because in the end, my physical reality, my physical being is primary in my life. So my needs will always come first. They'll always come first. When, and that doesn't mean your needs won't be there, but they'll come second. Well, that's not real unity, right? Here, from a Jewish perspective, real unity is from the soul's perspective, we're really brothers, right? Real soul brothers, if you will. Really, not figuratively, as the Alter Rebbe says in chapter 32 of Tanya. Not figuratively, really, really, we really are. Um, but but that's something beyond, you know. Um, yeah, but from the soul's perspective, we're really we're really united, right? Now, but that's a lower level, believe it or not. The Alter Rebbe, from the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, the Rebbe gives now a higher level, is that when you reveal the essence, the core essence of the soul, the way it is rooted in the essence of God. So then the inner world of the person is also one with the core essence, right? In other words, not just the essence of the soul is one with, and therefore the unity that will achieve will be in all matters, even those things that are, of a bodily concern, of a material concern. I got to tell you the truth. I got to let this sink in, because this is saying something more than what Tanya is saying. The Rebbe is that the way it is in Tanya, because the unity of Jewish souls is based on soul, so therefore the connection is a soulful one, more than in, right, the core soul, if you will. The unity, when it comes the way we're rooted in the essence of God, so there's no distinction between soulfulness and materiality and the core of God, right? Soulfulness and materiality are the same in the core essence of God. God will express himself equally in both. And therefore, from that level, uh, will express the unity in things that are of a bodily concern, right? Just, the material welfare of the individual, not just the soulful uh, well-being of an individual. There's needs a little more thought. Okay, that's a very fine line of a distinction over here that, be quite honest, I don't have enough clarity. Okay, now going back to the words of the Torah passage. So now we can understand that the Jewish people add something to the level of Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, and the Moses of each generation, because they bring, as the verse says, right? They bring the olive oil, the crushed olive oil, to the Ma'ar, right? They're bringing to the core essence of their soul, from the being that they internalize the idea that if there's a place where there isn't godliness, that pains us. And if we can do something about it, we'll do something about it. Um, so through this, the verse continues and says that it will be an eternal flame. So now from the verse, it says, who's making the eternal flame? Well, it's a Jew who's bringing the olive oil right? Meaning that's coming from the crushing of the olive, right? Which means the crushing, the feeling of being crushed from within. We're adding that to Moshe. But seemingly it's Moses, it's the Moshe Rabbeinu who brings to us the capability of touching our core, right? He feeds faith. He feeds faith. So why are we saying that it's us adding into Moshe Rabbeinu? So says says the Rebbe explains like this, that there's the effect that the grand teacher Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, the Moses of every generation has. It's an up-down effect, right? From their greatness coming down to us. That's what Atatitzava, that you command, you connect. The Moses of every generation connects us to the deeper part of us that allows us to be a deeper connection to God. But in that deeper connection, there'll be a distinction between evening and morning, which the next verse goes on it to say, evening and morning. Wow. So the Moses will inspire us, the Moses of every generation, that there's night and there's day, meaning there are times there's darkness in our lives. And that darkness will lead us to, excuse me, will lead us to be able, that crushing experience, to reveal the core of us, the deeper part in us, not the lesser part in us, the deeper part in us. And then there'll be times that'll be morning, meaning the light of God will be shining in our lives. And then we'll kind of go back to, regular routine. In other words, we won't be able to rise above, right? Again, the metaphor I've used before is when the child is stuck under the car and the mother's able to pick up the car. Afterwards, she's not able to do it. The adrenaline comes to the fore, right? The crushing experience brings out something that wasn't available before. Afterwards, you go back to normal. Well, that's what happened. That's what Moses can do for us. He can give us that when we come to a crushing experience, we're going to rise up, we're going to transcend the human condition and lift ourselves up to the core of our being, right? And there will be distinction between day and night. But when will there be never a distinction? There will be a continual light that we will be shining only when we internalize that which Moses gives us and make it internalize in a way that our minds and hearts are in tune with the core of our soul and of the core of our being. But that's something the leader of the generation, the holy man of the generation, the Moses of the generation can't do for us. We have to do for ourselves, right? He can't internalize it, that we make it real for us on a internalized meaning with the powers of our soul, which the powers of our soul are the three elements of Chabad, Chachma, Bina, V'das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge of our intelligence, and then in our emotional makeup of the 7 emotions that we have. That's something that we can only make it real for us. How do we do that? By the learning that we engage in. That's what gives us the capability that we could, internalize our faith to make it something that is constant, that we're a constant light, not, a light here and there, so to speak.